Lozawa Nambani Rinpoche Kati Tengate Losundo Inchi Tola and Sumba Puyeg Mari German Tola and
Was?
And Juni.
And Inji come. Inji Anang Sumba ada tangan di Cipari. Oh yeah. So for the opening prayers, we are again reading in the morning. Page 3.
The Zhi Lam Drä Monante. So the Juni in the one. The German Tola. Tenga the Jiba. Ah, Yanjel Zhi Lam Drä Monante Lawson. Whom the Chiranda.
Okay, page 3. Homage to glorious Samantha Bhadram. The true nature of things is naturally free of conceptual projections. It does not exist since even the victorious ones do not see it. Yet neither is it non-existent, as it is the ground of all samsara and nirvana. There is no contradiction here, for it lies beyond the realm of expression. May all realize this great perfection, the true nature of the ground. In essence, it is empty, hence free from the limitations of permanence. By nature, it is clear and free from the limitations of nihilism. Its capacity, unobstructed, it is the ground of manifold emanations. It is divided into three, yet in truth there are no such differentiations. May all realize this great perfection, the true nature of the ground. Inconceivable and free of all superimposition, one-sided fixation on things being either existent or non-existent completely dissolves. The full import of this turns back even the tongue of the victors. Without beginning, middle, or end, it is a great expanse of deep clarity. May all realize this great perfection, the true nature of the ground. Its essence is pristine, unoriginated, and primordially pure. Whatever manifests is the expression of the unconditioned spontaneous presence. Without perceiving them as other, realizing the great unity of awareness emptiness, one's understanding of the ground. That is shorter in German, but I guess. That's it.
Rango namda jemi kadalas rango namda da 세구대로 쳤다나 다 양내양대 시에 대화라도 요래 생포랑 라시에 다 남갔다 వెళ్ళ들이 요 매시 어디서 말 이제 직장 매만하지 차대요 그 가다시 와 까레다 봐 이제 다 지금 밤이 소화를 돼 가다라스 지금 가다 술줍 다 가다 적진 가다 술줍 되시네 술줍 디마세 당샤 술줍 지금 오지라 땅나 신신의 동관이 신신 18살 됐다 동거요 시바 동관이 봐 신신 18이 동거요 술줍 디마세 당샤에 술줍 데려가다 하는 거서 내가 고유의 마음을 동성 좋게 가만히 봐. 가다다 그러게 르바다 오 동바다 사동이야 찍을 또 가만히 사르나 진 동바라 비서 앞에는 룸에다 차이잖아. 저 셈을 다기나 그래서도 보지 삼마당 그냥에 셈을 동 사람은 사람의 뒤도 로마티 나 통통 생문 내로 마시는 상태들 로마시 이제 또 받았다 먹. 다 공자 싶어도 사람의 제대로 새로 가르쳐서 뭐 하고 더 봐. 이게 남이 심이 남절 바탕 다 타마반이 제발 가르쳐야 돼. 타마바탕 하고 말 때면서 들면서 다니고 같이 가래 동사처럼 람스트인들이 싸먹다고 신경이 시바대로 딱 찢다고는 딴 거요 말이에요. 진고랑 딱 찢마다게 그것도마저 우리 동성 독채에서 싸워다 동반이가 가가 많이 봐. 그래서 또봐 이제 공부 체도 생겨서 네 또봐 이제서 네 단지 제가 하고 말이지 이나 Dzogchen 나와서 대성은 인상도 라면 봐. 이 sakshina 남들 제대 람되게 당무성 들이 곰 들이 냠 당고 따와 들이 곰바 들이 주바르세는 들이 다다른 바 이제 레버 톡고요래 따와 곰바 주바성들이 들이 레버 톡고 Dzogchen 나와서 성구요래 Dzogchen 나와들 이제 또 와서 가렌티 막 가르쳐 사야 저 톱마종 더 공급의 지를 똑같이 해서 나와지 애인 남랑 그 채tom대로 그래 나와지 될라디 주인 무슨 남남 공부를 빠체팩 주세 로데에디 예요래 이 나와지 또 담당 기보로 보지 그 가사관리 독지송을 답제 연대양 송을 다 인지시 야채 뭐를 남제들 독지는 나와지 사실이 다 남절제 돈다데 돈다 발전 쪽바라에 사토를 시바거든 자치용 배치 뭐를 독지 배치가 많아서리 이나상 리지 타도 보면 말이 되나들이 또 빠지지 바데 야사다 공부를 사요에 공부를 그래 Dzogchen 나와야 돼요래. 똑바지 성도와 똑바지 다 semna 냥슬 리고 가면 rem바지도 똑요래. 당호 주인 무슨 세군대로 해서 통. 그러니 남남 공부를 이제 이야기를 또 우리가 또 탐색을 센터 바로 많이 됐다. 그래서 사우 됐더니 주인 무슨이나 그리 남남 공부를 들으러 빠체በት 하고 그래. 르파체르베는데 레시사고 가당나 디데쇼 르파체르 페비 따라 너무 차 탐제 떨어뜨고요. 이 르파체르 페퍼에서 이 르파체르 요지 망보 요나요. 체르페마 페베니 페는 저저 짜들 양장도 저들은 데서 노자 왜야 왜 페는 잡인 거 짜는 누구니 되는 잡히면 저 빼야서 때 잡히면 저 저도 깨라는 도로지 설랑선 제들이 짜고 터버리지 이봐 짜지 양지 저들 짜고 터버리지 걔는 세부 또 터봐 다지 니지 박차 탐치 또 터봐 다 돼서 어디 차전에 너는 시합 유무가 떨어봐. 저책들은 책봐. 대로 오늘 제가 빠체를 배받을 때로 와서 그래. 이번에 주제로에서 공부고 차로요. 저기바시나. 다 사치가 주의세로. 사치가 고민. 고도 비바 사치가 고민. 독치가 주의세바. 주제로에. 왔다당 사치 야고다 고민이라. 그래. 얘는만 고민이 돼. 나 똑바 이제. 어때 공부? 나도 생각하고 말이야. 기본을 보지. 똑바 이제 고맙지. 그래.
So now then we're coming back to the teachings.
잠깐 이제 봐라. 이제 따와서 오마. 이제 내놓고 봐. 텔레비전에 다서 주님 무슨이라고 그래. 주님 무슨 또 이제 막 잠깐 이제 살이. 뭔가 체의 senso도 텔레비전이다. 남들인데 체의 senso는 다지 살에 잡혀. 어떤 뭐 소리다가 이제 소울 체. 이제 내는 도나 다 이제 집에 따와매 되지로 이제 또 하고 따와 타 주는 데라.
So we're coming back to the text, and so up until this point, on page 5, may I realize the great perfection, the true nature of the ground. So up until this point was the ground or the basis. And next, following is then the path, the nature of the path. And it begins with, its essence is pristine, unoriginated, and primordially pure. And so we keep mentioning it again and again. We need to look at our mind. And when you look at your mind, you see a space-like nature that can neither said to be existing nor non-existing. So there's this term here, primordially pure. And that is when you really settle in this fundamental basis, this ground, then it is like there is nothing there anymore. And so this is on the basis, fundamental purity, the primordial purity. And then in the next line is the second term that is often mentioned in the Dzogchen teachings. Whatever manifests is the expression of this unconditioned spontaneous presence. So primordially pure and spontaneous presence are those two terms. And so that is, this spontaneous presence is that within this primordial purity, there also is the clear awareness that is fully aware of what arises, and it is unconditioned, an unconditioned spontaneous presence. And so this spontaneous presence, being unconditioned, is indivisible from this state of primordial purity. Or as we usually say, the essence of mind is empty and its nature is clear. And the nature of clarity is emptiness, the nature of emptiness is clarity. So when you look at your mind and you don't follow the thoughts after 3 times, in an instant, there is often there's no concept, no notion of it's empty or it's clear and so on. There is just this spontaneous, sudden clarity that is just there, and so. For the most part, we don't recognize because we are in this kind of indifferent state. So then when you are actually in a state of meditation, like a meditator, the essence of meditation really is that whatever arises, you are fully aware of it. And that actually is the difference between a yogi, a practitioner, and an ordinary person. An ordinary person doesn't really recognize much. And when there is a little bit of time, then they like to rest or sleep and so on. So that's really an important point here also. There is this awareness that recognizes whatever arises. And just when something really important happens to an ordinary person, then suddenly they are startled and they are fully aware. But normally, normal people don't really look at their mind. And so now then the next line, without perceiving them as other, realizing the great unity of awareness, emptiness, and then one's understanding of the ground will reach a point of culmination. So there seems to have been a little bit of confusion here because this term understanding of the ground, the spelling in Tibetan looks very similar to the number 4. So Rinpoche thought it's like 4 kinds of understandings. But anyways, it will make sense in the end. So then, so basically when we see it in 4 ways, so in the Dzogchen, we speak about 4 appearances. And these actually correspond to the 4 yogas of Mahamudra. So Rinpoche thinks probably there's a correspondence. And also that corresponds to the view, meditation, and conduct. So basically there is 3 or 4 stages whereby we achieve the fruition. So in the Dzogchen practice, there is those 4 visionary appearances. That is, first there is the appearance of the direct perception of dharmata, or of reality. And then secondly, there is the appearance of this ever-increasing experience, a contemplative experience. And then there is the appearance of awareness reaching, of reaching a limit of awareness. And then fourth, there is the appearance of a cessation of clinging to the dharmata, or reality. So regarding that, anyways, you should ask those Khenpos who are here too. Also, I myself didn't have an opportunity to ask a lot of questions about that. But there's a correspondence between that and the 4 yogas of Mahamudra. And it is just that they're explained slightly different. In the Dzogchen tradition, there is much more commentary, for example. For example, regarding the first appearance, which is the direct perception of dharmata, or reality. So here you begin to see, glimpse the nature of mind. And then in the second appearance of the ever-increasing contemplative experience, here you, in developing the practice, so it is increasing, and you begin to recognize more and more of your thoughts. So it's just like the growing of a flower, from a seed into a flower. And then when you come to the third appearance of reaching the limit of awareness, so here, then you're actually able to go of, you're able to let go of all coarse and subtle thoughts and afflictions. And that's actually a sign of having reached this appearance of reaching the limit of awareness, when you're able to let go of all thoughts that arise. And of course, in general, this level of appearance has many more qualities than that. And you should ask those Khenpos here about that too. But basically, what really happens in those levels is a continual refinement of awareness. It becomes increasingly sharp. So Rinpoche, just remember, there is this very special sword that they have in Japan that is extremely sharp. So you wear it around your belt, and it is so sharp. It is very thin, actually, like paper, but it is so sharp that it can actually cut through other metal very easily. So just like that, the mind can cut the mind. And you're cutting through dualistic grasping and self-grasping and all habitual karmic imprints. So on this level, you're able to cut through all affliction, all habitual imprints with awareness. So that's the appearance of reaching the limit of awareness. And then the fourth one, which is the appearance of the cessation of clinging to dharmata or reality. So here that corresponds to the fourth step of Mahamudra, which is non-meditation. So here it happens naturally. There is no more deliberate effort necessary. And so anyways, now coming back to this verse here, one's understanding of the ground will reach a point of culmination. So this reaching culmination probably then refers to the fourth appearance, that is the cessation of clinging to a reality or to dharmata. And also that is similar to that other quote that you mentioned before. When you know the basis or the ground, by knowing the ground, there is no other view than that. So when you know the ground, basically you have decided upon, resolved, or gained confidence in the view.
that's a clear what so many the what the check the we just get them 가가리 운지게 탐지 이제 집에 다와메 대해서 소소지 상도는 다 배참진에서 중심보 연구요래 대외 통화니 당하게 제시해 봐도 저렇게 봐서들 비양자셔데 지게 자된 그저 동동들이 그런 기본 못해 투지체 되면 대하는 제 싸워리 시요 말에 그래서 이제 다 이제 우리 이제 공부 체제 생기나 다 책동들이 따와라 대선미라 따와 대선미들 대선노 잡아 대선도 잡아지 따는 오시나들이 물리지나 따다다 나로밖에 로만 몰라더니 빈자다가 고살 말을 받아서 좀 지네 들이 따다운들이 때려박아 손을 로주니까 우리 동태에 강리들 하고 그러는데 하고 그러는데 이 소리 최선대 다 로도 맞추려 로도에 맞추려 되게 딱가를 잡고 요래 그 로도 추치바디 하고도 어 하 뭐지 가양도 내일 유로 못 가려 잤어 간통하면 가시를 나서 하고 또 요래 되게 적자와도 들리다 요래 하고 또 최선매가 자고 요래 사실 사실은 좀 방법에서 하자 라다고 해야 그냥 오다티 좀 말해서 라라고 그래 대마도들이 이 다이제스트에 타주고 이제 다들 타주고 공부 체도 생이 되는 다와 타주고 벌써 인절해서 되게 tam시 그냥 자동은 좋고 요래 진짜 야요 말에 이제 제가 말해 되게 보는 바를 양절 막히게 양수적으로 또 어쩌고
Fortunately, Ken Rinpoche here pointed that out to me now, because this term Zhi here, it could mean number 4 or it can mean ground. The pronunciation is the same, just the spelling is different. That's why I kind of mixed this up, and I thought it's 4 understandings, but actually it's the understanding of the ground. Good that Kempo pointed that out for me. And actually, here you can clearly see what happens when you have not learned the scriptures. And that's why always in the beginning, that's why I always say what I'm teaching you is just my own experience, but you should really confirm that with the Kempos and ask them questions and ask your other teachers questions. So that's precisely why. So it says and here the ground will reach a point of culmination. So when the ground reaches a point of culmination, this is where you become free of all doubts regarding the view. You actually recognize the view. For example, Naropa, he first was a great scholar for many years. He was very accomplished in study and learning, but still he had not reached that point of realizing the nature of mind. So he had to rely on his teacher Tilopa for 12 years and also endure many hardships under him. And that is to clear away all remaining doubts regarding the ground. And for as long as we have not reached this point of culmination, it is not clear. There will be doubts in our mind. But then when you know it, when you clear away all those doubts and you see it, then sometimes it seems that actually there is nothing not to understand. Actually, you will find it quite strange that you didn't know that before. There's nothing not to be understood here. And then there are, of course, also some practitioners who realize that very quickly, instantly. There's those who we call instantaneous realizers. They just understand. And understanding here means that you are completely free of doubts. Actually, Jim Mibam had also said that maybe it is the case that it is too easy to understand, that we just don't believe it. We do see it, but then we don't believe it, and then we again think that that can't be it, and then we lose it again. So to decide upon the view is when you reach this point of culmination, when you are certain, when there is no more doubt in your mind. This is now my interpretation of this line, and also again I have not received an explanation on that before, so that's just what I think it is. But again, I really encourage you to clarify that and to ask questions to the Kempos here.
그래서 저당 남들들 고축 매발 소소사 네가 남들이 냠이 먹고 냠슬링 뒤더니 네 문제를 단 찾지 다음부터 네 갑들이 고르지나 배나 따라고는 냠이 지고 지금 찍고들 라이스나 다 찍고들 속잡들이 되라 되는 상로 땅을 저 동당원이 조름을 상로 땅만 제도 성적 제마시네 그렇게 또 제일 쪽으로 고정 트리테 나다는 반 틀려라서 봐 대상지로 구멍 라면이야 controsa요 데르티다 구멍 그 받아지 내가 정으로 대상지로 고 트리티는 냐면 예로지 요래 쭉 지나 다시 이절이 다시 그 따완 초는들이 고반 초는들이 참만 좋은 거요. 너사서 권촉이 받을 때 책도만보다 무슨 냐면이나 고르초 사주 스긴 가로도 양 각각 고사 조사 탑지 각각의 이월에 독신 냐면 제보가 마게 촉선 야는 오 다때 저런 독사적 영에 파고 잡다는 거 서로 곰도 좀 하고 마적사 샤다서 저때 피마마서 누구하고 자도 다 파고 잡 배대로 고사 조사 장장시잖아. 이렇게 저거요리 옛날에 남체 송사들어 따와서 뭐 돈에 따와 뭐处理다라 상바의经济 좋아. 이게 소미 좋나? 때만 좋은 놨다 지금 남체 너래. 이번엔 유모가 좋나? 다 되니 이거 유모가랑 이거 좋지. 대다 고산 좋다 따와리 요말 따대. 기초고 여기 송신 보면 세게 송발이 그래서 대마도 딱 공산 조사 탐지를 써놓다 대배차로나 다 마르사 차다 빼는 이거서 다다 라니 소리만나 줌이 이제 양사제 바에 송을 그 줌이 이제 파시에 송은 저시 잡송은 따와 고운 거를 시에들로 각각 체비시 봐. 다대야 노선 대 고선 사고 대로 차요 거요래. 그래서 이제 다 촉고 다대 초면에 막 노선상 대다 남을 연구요래. 그래서 뭐 자식이 말이지 갑들이 다 가르쳐 버리게 고축 배우면 대가를 대다 오나 라마를 먹을 채비 바울로 시간이 라마를 세들려고 지금 한 인것들이 랑게 랑고 고사 조사 탐지 이 마치 셔탑서 떨박에 나로 바라서는 되니 그 셀답지 취직고 라마니 남자 봐서 보도 그 셀보도 답지라 라마는 저 뭐콘 각성 돼서 뭐 자치 모으는 대상들 설득이면 레레기도 대로 잘 단지 잡나들이 배가를 갖고 이랬지 떨박에 나로 바라서는 들이 살성 보고다마 성으로 돼 하정 자치게 살성 보고데 그 셀그 남자 취직고 라마니 남자 봐 본도 남자 취직고 라마니 남자 봐서 즉 강성의 제사대 떨어서 뭐송 자치 보세 너나 다시 그 고산숙사 참아 빼망자서 딱 가르쳐 그래 라마를 모르는 라마치고 거들 제가 세탁이에서 에테타와 테르테도 답되고 딱 나다 가지고 있나 여기 뭐 가서 sab지 지발에 공원부터 용디 매와 sab지게 오 테르타 공자 시대 말에서 생탕치를 대바지 라마를 모르지랑 거 시지 와요 오래스
Then it says, may there be no deviations and mistakes concerning this key point of the path. And so now on the path, this is when we then actually engage in practice. And then now due to previous karmas and also temporary, momentary conditions that might arise, it is possible that we deviate from the path, we stray from the path. For example, when we practice the deity, and when we practice the deity, there is first the development stage where we visualize the deity. And then if we only do that, if we only focus on that, and we only visualize the deity, and we do not really think about, let's say, the completion stage, then there is a possibility of going astray on that path. Then, for example, we might only be focused on developing mantra powers or developing the various activities, being able to accomplish various activities and so on, some common cities or attainments. So this is one way of straying from the actual path. And then in this way, one's actual practice will really diminish. So it says, may there be no deviations and mistakes. So regarding these now there's a mistake that we can have regarding the view. We can deviate within the view. We can deviate in our meditation. There's all kinds of deviations, actually. And in fact, there is whole volumes of scriptures on that explain all those things that you have to be careful about, all those deviations and all those mistakes and all those things you shouldn't do. Especially in the Dzogchen, there are huge volumes on that. And a long time ago, actually, I had a look, I glanced over some of them in one of those books, and then, but very quickly I closed that book again because I felt that there's just too many things I'm not allowed to do, and I can't remember all of these deviations and mistakes. And anyways, it's kind of negative too, because they only speak about things that you shouldn't do and things that are bad and things that are wrong. And then I felt like if I keep reading that, it will not be any good. It will not be of any benefit. So I just closed that book and just left it with the essence. And that is basically twofold. When you resolve the view, then there's basically two signs that you have to look at. And one major sign is that love and compassion must arise in your heart. And when that arises, you will not deviate or make a mistake. And then the second sign to look out for is your ability in letting go or liberating the afflictive emotions. And if you're able to do that too, then you will also not deviate or make a mistake. So these are really the most important signs to look out for. And actually, that's also something that Khenpo Munsel told me personally. So that's why I really didn't read those scriptures much more. And also in the 37 practices, for example, it says that if you don't watch out, then you might take birth in the 4 formless absorptions and so on. And so then if you know about all of that and you practice the view and you meditate, then you can become a little bit anxious, even paranoid, thinking that maybe I'm wrong here, maybe I'm wrong there. And then in the end, you can't even meditate at all anymore. Everything seems to be going wrong. So that is why I have not really gone into that. So at that time, what I did, how I dealt with that, is that if I had some doubts about my practice, then very directly I just thought of the Guru, and I really developed a profound devotion, had the Guru in my mind. And I found that naturally when the Guru is in my mind, there will be no deviation. That can clear away all kinds of hindrances. And actually that was also taught by Tilopa to Naropa. And I don't remember the entire verse, but the important part of this verse is that the Guru Yoga is everything. The Guru Yoga is the method, or the Guru devotion is the method to dispel any hindrance, any obstacle. The Guru devotion is the way to that enhances your practice, is your stepping stone in the practice. So I found that this is actually sufficient. If I practice devotion to the Guru, all hindrances or all deviations and mistakes can be cleared away. So actually now that I found to be more helpful, more useful than reading about all these details and mistakes that could happen. And I found that to be not very helpful actually, and actually quite difficult to go through. So I just focused on this essential part. So if you are like myself, who likes to engage in practice down to the essence, and maybe you don't have so much learning like myself, if you want to practice in a simple way, then this is how I did it. And then actually you don't have to worry and think that I just don't know how to do it and I just don't know how to meditate. then you will not get weary of practice. You will not get tired of practice. Then you know that if you have just these essential points, if you have trust in the Guru and Guru devotion, then you will be all right on the path. You will not deviate or make a major mistake.
Von der Kraft und Wirkung der Gefühlsverirrung, der Geistesgifte zu befreien. Wenn also durch unser Üben Liebe und Mitgefühl im Herzen wächst und wenn dadurch der Einfluss der Geistesgifte in uns abnimmt, dann gibt es kein Vertuchen. Da ist kein Abweg möglich. So, das möge man beherzigen. Und darüber hinaus heißt es, wenn wir uns der Erfahrung und Führung eines guten Lehrmeisters anvertrauen und seinen Vorbildern nachgehen, dann wird darin auch in uns allein in der liebenden Wertschätzung zu unserem Lehrer wird ein ganz einfaches Eintreten in diesen richtigen Übungszustand möglich werden. So, das ist der große Wert, der große Nutzen davon, dass man in seinem Übungsweg sich einem Lehrer anvertraut und in der liebenden Wertschätzung zu ihm, zu ihr dann geleitet ist und mühelos ist dieser Weg von jeder Verirrung und von Fehltritt frei.
또 공부 체에서 봐야지. 주다 시켰다가 레주비를 가서 치고 수로바요 봐, 삼세요 봐. 공부다 니 몸이 봐야지. 니 몸과 답지. 라가 시켰다 봐대 답지다. 체에서 봐다. 저 땅지 냠리치만 탐지고 랑랑랑 쳤다지 땅 걸면 이는 파닥지 땅. 오, 내내 지금 콘진지로 제가도 세자올라면서 이렇게 말이. 콘도 가르쳐야 되는 인간 마다고 봤더라 봐. 통나. 오. 제 랑은 나와라더니 랑은 유무방을 이 마다바터진 통구요 딱 보이면 참 통구요 말 빼세다 통구요에 또 소소랑 제다들이 주다시 신터와 공단이 몸에 봐라 랑 쳤다지 땅 거래 선이 몸한테 설마 저렇게 비하고 뭐요 대사질 때는들이 체의 스님이 딱을 주다지다 내가 따와가 딱 유몽그 장고 베세서 유몽가 강에 동에 치고 숨을까 비들이 너를 잡나 내가 강에서 쫓아봐 제가 체의 스님이 살았다고 그래 정말 좀 어떻게 쓰인서 냠리 남지가 비들이 강에 남을 망본 주고요 그래 강에서 sab실들이 강에 용을 값들이 다냠리 속다를 딱 정도 제거가 빼나 잡지는 로봇한테 자장지는 잡지를 가져가는 거 좋고요. 뭐 소삼지나 나트기 잡지는 속시 받는 덤 리속배 됐다. 담하게 오게. 됐어. 잘또 남도를 besar 맞잖아. 곰시서 야야리 그때는 영을 말에 벨라세서 가면 쳐가면 제대로 지시면 나도 짜장 속거래지. 다음으로 주는
So in a verse before, we talked about reaching the point of culmination. And so whether or not we have reached that point, we can just see for ourselves. It is said in general, what to look out for, it is said that a sign of learning is peaceful and subdued behavior. One will be peaceful and kind and patient and gentle and so on. And then it is said a sign of meditation is an absence of afflictive emotions. And that is, afflictions arise, but you are able to let them go. So that is a sign of having reached such a point of culmination. And whether or not you have reached this point, you can just really see by looking at your own mind. And that is to say that you should look at your own mind and not at what other people are doing. Because then it's easy to become distracted and think that, but I'm doing it like this, but why is he doing it like that? So in this way, we will not resolve anything. And no matter what other people do, even if we see that things do not, we don't approve of what they do, for example, seeing it this way, it only shows that you yourself are afflicted. It is because there are afflictive emotions in your mind that you can only see impurity. And even if things are actually pure, you couldn't even see that because the mind is impure. So it's more important to look at your own mind than to look at what other people are doing or how pure they are. So for yourself, it is important to not become controlled by the 5 afflictions. So you should see for yourself, am I being mindful? Am I being vigilant? Am I able to let go of the afflictive emotions, and so on? So with that view, you have to use the afflictive emotions to train yourself within the view. And that especially will become apparent when you encounter difficulties.
tata sakhi Dzogchen wama samje tawa ka mente samratani 동문에 manyo mares chebo samjo mar topo chodo gri sebu dero topo atela mangdang chema de yara trite zabari teke tawa yang topo yo mare tawa khol man ka yang be ta di tong de ke yo sebu ne lo ran sao ha ko song ne ha ko ju de sa tong song ju de rang tawa de de yin ba yo mare de tawa ka man yara de 송정지가 따와 차는 거요. 데리 따왜 뭐냐 매지. 얘네 따왜 뭐냐 매데. 생구랑 시खा는 죽어야 매. 생이 얘네 사제지랑 얘네 배송 독신송에서 그 생광 중에 다 대식인 보지는 라카레네들이 생광랑 시대 사제이 봐다 죽어 거요. 근데 하자 가르쳐 뭐 얘네 따왜 뭐냐 매서
And so especially when you encounter difficulties, at that time, are you able to let go of your negative thoughts and your suffering about it? So in these ways, you can see whether or not you have reached that point of culmination. So for that, it is important to train continuously so that when a difficulty arises, you're also able to actually deal with it. For example, it is like when you're going into the ocean and swim. If you really know how to swim, if you have trained in that before, then you can do all kinds of exercises in the ocean. But if you haven't learned it, then, for example, one time I remember I was going into the ocean and I don't know how to swim, so I quickly was swallowed by a wave and found myself with a mouth full of sand, and everybody was laughing. So anyways, if you do not train your mind continuously in recognizing the thoughts and letting them go and so on, then when you actually encounter difficulties, you will not be able to deal with it. So you have to train your mind continuously, even when nothing goes wrong at all times. And so then the next verse says, pure from the beginning, even the term view does not exist. So the actual nature of the mind is primordial purity. And when you realize just that, then that's the view, and there is no other view. And this term view is just a name, a label. And if it's a label, it is a grasping.
라신 사제 얘네 사제 마상을 하고서는 다들이지 랑그 로버그 온적 로버 좀 맞아서 송마들이 사제 무송 정말 매바티 다티 따와 제 사제의 제배 발에지 제 하고서는 제 무슨 다달이 다 뭐다비 땅 따왕 거 떼고 맞으라 하고 요 말이 다사 너무지 쳐다기 자도 얘나한테 따왕 거 전화들이 따고는 መን가가리고 말이스 오랑데 제 고아삼 차나 오 랑그 생기대로 정말 차들은 랑 셈 다랑 상제야 이제 데이터가 고아도 차라서니 랑 셈도 정말 차랑 아니 그 셈데 상자가 요리 데이터가 고는더니 데이터 팽이 요리 얘네 딱 따왜 뭐양 매지 따와지 봐면 또 치마를 뒤봐 들으는 거 세고 내로 네 다당 어떻게 될 대비들이 랑들로 랑 하고 아마도 이 적성이 되는 데서 뭐라 터져 봐도록 랑 세고대로 랑 어떻게 봐 대당 따와 이 가까이 요 말이지 대라고 첫 장만 상장들 들어가는 거 말이야. 첫 장만 상장으로 됐다 따라와. 생세고 내로 그런 장만 상장 생미 연리 사제라비 사제라. 대 하고서 사람들이 제가 따와서 맹따라들이 사치 적신과 사치 고독시 하고 말이지 심하더라고요. 되게 직접 요 말이 식단 뒤서 것들이 따와는 맹매 제보 섬좀 말을 똑고 줘서 생활을 하시더라. 맹단 친구들 다가다도 똑같이고 고요서 똑같이 보고서 이제 가요 석지도 독신 남사회로 말이지 좀 다시 예쁘소 요래 석지 독신 갖고자 독신 석지를 갖고자 그래 그거리 취지서도리 야고리 대는 따와를 중탐지 따공주 따와공 바탐지 중탐지 싸스고 이제 대리 취지서도리 그것도 좀 싸스고 요래 뭐 내록 들들이 따왔으면 요 말이다 호대인이가 달리 내록적이 대 가래를 랑그 셈로다 호대인이가 랑그 셈로 타지 랑그 셈이 내록에 따다다 내록 지마더니 드바타 차와 니데들 차와 셈 대하고는 랑그 셈에서 이들 맹들 차와 맹들 치마를 짜고 봐 맹당 치마 매가 되라 얘네 딱 따왜 명양 매지.
So actually the view has no name, and when you clearly know the nature of your own mind, it is clear and empty, and that itself is actually the view, and there's no other view than just that. We just, because we give it names, often because we give it names, like Mahamudra and Dzogchen and so on, that often leads to views of, kind of biased views of holding one's own view to be superior. But actually it doesn't have such a name. The nature of the mind is the Dharmakaya, that's the ultimate view. So pure from the beginning, even the term view does not exist. The pure mind from the beginning is the Buddha within you. It is Buddha nature. We can call it many different things, but all it is the natural state of one's own mind that one needs to resolve, needs to recognize. So that's very important. When we are grasping at a view or anything, it is just like like water becoming polluted. So the Buddha had said that beings are temporarily obscured. When these obscurations are cleared away, then they are Buddhas. So primordially, this is our natural state already. And so in the beginning, our mind is more murky. We don't really recognize. We don't know have we really understood the view or not. So if we have really recognized the view, we find that actually it transcends all kinds of names. There is no name, no label, and so on for it. It has no characteristics. So if you just understand that point, actually, if you just understand that, then you will know that it is all only my own mind, the pure natural state of my mind itself, that is the Buddha, or that is what can attain enlightenment. It is my own mind itself that will become a Buddha. Actually, knowing that is very beneficial. So the view transcends names and labels. And when you recognize it, actually it transcends those three names of Mahamudra, Dzogchen, or Madhyamaka. For example, Jigten Sumgön had said, the actual view is untouched by the three great ones, meaning Mahamudra, Dzogchen, and Madhyamaka. So being untouched is that those three names do not exist.
곰지 섭래 통지 다 곰도 이다데 제 곰고상데 데 말이 나도 탐체서랑 그 생각내로 너 통소는 이리 봐다 먹곰 고바치 보 사야체 버티선 거래 얘랑한테 섬사고 사동만 과다는 통 가지 통하고 뒤세도 딱 버려 요래 나 과다 동미 받네 요래 서로 공부해요 말이지 저만이나 제 카메라 되나 랑고를 그 곰지 손에 통데 곰지 셀 쳐요고 말고 sem 코랑 고르샤 sem 코랑 내로 대가는 고르샤 하세 다는 가 고아리 말이디 이제 시시랑 통말에 대양 렉만 기본으로 봐라 간다 쇼거래 대 하고도 되니 그 도와줘 들으니 깔리 싫어 내가 차연 거래 내로 이진바요 말이디 랑고를 그 곰지 손에 통서
And so otherwise, we might say things like, I practice Dzogchen, and my view is superior, so Mahamudra is no comparison to Dzogchen, and so on. And then Mahamudra, of course, claims the opposite, and then there is a lot of conflict. And of course, sometimes this debate is also necessary in order to refine each other's understanding of the Dharma, to clarify any kind of mistakes about the view, meditation, and conduct. But in any case, in reality, their actual view has no name. It is just one's own mind that is the very basis of samsara and nirvana.
밤에 와서 손도 제가랑 세고는 아시더라 야야라 이렇게 좋아지 먹고 그리고 몸지 섭들 저를 쇼나 섭도 자기가 돼서 섭들을 강리지 요라 생포를 나왕 배바들 쫄란데 쫄고 요리 당리지 내가 통솔랑 소리니 생포를 배돌 맞이봐 생포랑 시광 배돌 맞이봐라.
So it is the mind that is the natural state in its bare state that is free of all concepts, all dualistic grasping, and so on. And that is the so-called view, but we actually cannot call it even that. We cannot give it a name. It has no characteristics. So then next on page 6 it says, aware of the original state, the sheath of meditation falls away. So the sheath of meditation is that it's like a cover of meditation. So there's no notion of I have to meditate on something any longer at that point, because this would be like a covering, like wearing a cloak, for example. It is some kind of hardship. It is bound to involve effort. So it becomes effortless. When you see the nature of the mind as it is, then that is it. You only have to decide upon it. In the Mahamudra teachings, it is that the great meditation is the state of non-meditation, and so.
자체 maybe 그거 좋아다 잘서 너들도 갖고 요리 드는들 소소 차이가 있지나 규바 시바들 드리는 것도 다 석고도 규바 요리 지티 취지디 사와 강지라 리도 규바 제고 요리 대상식 가려야 되는데 자체 매바되나 레도 매바 그거는 연구 요리 소소한 일이나 취지디 저와 가려 제나라게 무지 레라 수박을 로조래 그도 저게 좀 저거요래 가리 로골 레서 그래서 이지 문제 로골이 계속 저와 가는 용거요래 제가 디와를 같이 없어요 말이지 농매도 용거한테 용거래 내가 내가 말이 레라 서사대 매봐 난 세는 내로 때나 사와 접자 주지니 요매 다지니 가까이 요 말이 되니 뭐 지만 지네 레도치는 저가래 돼. 주마사 위해서 말이야 사게 돼. 저한테 sempre 서로 그냥 보도록 별라. 다 sempre 설도들 레도에 만다고 차용 거요래. 다다 제가 고안하고 그래. zate me be kubo rota ngen der drop goes ni ki bu den drop goes te yo ma o tingan drop ma song so te yo ma be kare drop na ka dong ti cho lo di rang ge nyam yong do wo ti na ta te lo te long da de pa lan ti me dong ha ko ma rang.
So when the mind is very clear, and in that moment you see your own space like nature, that is actually always there. It just has to be seen. Just like space, your true nature never comes and goes. It never goes away. And therefore, because it is your natural state, you don't actually have to meditate upon it. You don't have to create it or fabricate it or somehow conceptualize it, because it's already there. It just needs to be seen. Whenever you meditate, it is right there to be seen. So that state itself actually is the ultimate meditation. So all of that is just my own personal understanding, and I'm not saying that based on some commentary I have received. So if there are some discrepancies, please clarify that with the Kempos. So then next it says there are no reference points, hence no need to restrain one's conduct. So then when you see the nature of the mind, then no more effort is needed. It becomes effortless. You just remain within that state. And then now on the relative level now, regarding one's conduct, now we engage in activities in the world or in the Dharma with our body and speech and so on. And effortless activity or no need to restrain one's activity here, it says what that really means is that you have no hopes and no fears in your activities. And that's how actually I see it myself, no matter what I do. How I see it is that everything depends on karma, on the relative level, for example. So if I want to accomplish something and I have the karma, then I will accomplish it. No need to hope for it. And if I am to experience suffering, then I am bound to experience that. No need to fear it. Everything will just happen due to the force of karma. And whatever happens, it will not last. So then when you look at your mind, then the one who wants to accomplish anything and the accomplishment are actually non-dual. And if you cling to inherent reality and you develop hopes and fears, that is just confusion. Or the Buddha had said, it is all an illusion. And when you know that, the mind becomes very light. You see everything just like the film on TV, without hopes and fears. So that's just really my own understanding, and I'm sure if it really actually conforms with like all of the scriptures and so on. But for example, I myself, I am practicing like that. Basically, whatever comes my way, I am content, and that is fine without having much hopes and fears. So again, this is just really my own personal experience, and I'm not sure if it conforms with the scriptures.
Le tamu mata nyani chiba kale sejik tingi chedi sawa na te chupa dana rodo rangi kuwa na te ina tini kashiga tini chuji tini chawa kaangchi na tini jachi bolak chibo che togo yore kashiga tini rang kasang shisho ko yore mara te tamchi tini sosi beptola tibayi sana tini sok jamna rangi nguji suyo na masa na yogo yore mara suyo na mujini togo yore te rang beptola mati bayi this is Betor Chebati, Betor Tepati, Kangaru Jori, Sosok, Bepachestam Sena, that is a top of your marriage. Now to Dawingly, Tatina, or Deshisoni, the same not okay, Tani, that drop was the Kangaru, Kangarangi, Doko Matos, Sosok, Betor Matiba, Betor Matibari. Garchen there is a card brought there, Garchen there, Successi, the matter, there over a child in the seven combination that you marry. Oh, drops on a cassette, drops on a son of Saji, they must something to cassette and drops on a son of the cassette to go. What's your matter like this? There are 700 but of tip on me. Bender Lamanaba, Sohana de Nachwari, yeah. Lama Drime by slowly, Lama Chimbo Kushinchlo, then I took by Kosokangi, so we took by the great theatre. You would draw the target, same quantity, Chiban, now Jumata, Deba Beva, Didi Mena, in the Zomborum, Machan, Paramadama, they know in some way, some, the sausage, Jawan, the Shibaran took them.
Then also regarding the conduct here, also for from a beginner's perspective, now when we engage in outer conduct or worldly activities, and so again, this is just my own understanding of all this. And now there's some people in this world who can really accomplish great things, either in the Dharma or in a worldly sense. And then there is others who cannot even take care of themselves. And often it is really the case that that has nothing to do with the effort that we make. Sometimes things just happen also naturally. So if we lack the merit from before, then no matter how hard we try, things will still not happen. So the accomplishment of our wishes does not just depend on the effort that we put in. And often the more we try and the harder we try, actually the more we really exhaust ourselves too. And still in the end, we can't often get what we're really striving after. And now from the ultimate perspective, when you know that based on the relative understanding of karma, then also you will not develop a lot of thoughts about the outcome of anything. Then you won't think, I must accomplish this or do this, and I don't want to do that, and so on. Just naturally, you will let things evolve, unfold. And whatever happens will happen. And it doesn't happen depending on my hard effort and trying. So this is how I really go about things. Whatever is accomplished, and wherever I have to go, I have to go. Whatever I have to do, I do it. Wherever I have to stay, I just stay there, without much thinking about it. And if things turn out, then that's good, and if not, then that's also my karma. But it almost makes no difference, and it creates no misery and sadness in my mind, no difficulty. So if I accomplish things, then I think this is very well, because due to this merit, then the Buddha's teachings are benefited and sentient beings are benefited. So that is excellent. And if I don't accomplish what I want, then also it doesn't really affect me negatively. It's really all the same. For example, in the past, there were many great lamas in prison, and to them, actually, their state of mind was exactly the same in prison, in confinement, and outside on a fancy throne, for example, or being with their friends. It's all the same. In their mind, it made no difference whatsoever. And that's because they had realized that appearances are an illusion. So there is no belief in their reality. And when there is no belief in the reality, then you won't be attached to something pleasant or have an aversion against something unpleasant.
Memo tamsi mogo rangi shina then ga to dok ni meware tri ga ku ni mong te ni mong shi jo sona tri tri ta wa ngani tri to pa de ga dok khawa song tri tri la za phen yi ti je to pa ni ti je to pa tamsi ta na then ta si ta pa ram jang te te ro song go te ro kwa yi nam sang go do 다들 신고나 봐 욕하리 다들 나한테 짱짱 시작하니 대 이제 직장 통과 말이 다들 너로 너고요리 이게 나나 하고 말이 어떻게 하면 시작이요리 시작을 못 해야 말은 강비비 쇼거리 다안 가르쳐 버려야지
So again, this is what I think all of that means here, my own understanding, and again, you should clarify that. And so now it is said in general, when we practice, then here it is said that that ultimately that our conduct must be free of acceptance and rejection. But then on the relative level for us, really, we do have to practice some rejection and acceptance. And that means that we do need to practice virtue, and we do need to abandon non-virtue. Just here we are speaking on the ultimate level, and on the ultimate level one has recognized that the afflictive emotions are primordial wisdom by nature. And then from that perspective, there is no duality between acceptance and rejection, because the affliction has already been transformed into wisdom. So you're already resting within the view. And then in the conduct, there is no acceptance and rejection. And so that is when we have realized non-duality. There is no more duality between pure and impure, clean and dirty, and so on. And then we will see everything that appears and exists as an infinite field of purity. So again, this is just my own understanding, and again, you have to confirm with the Kempos here. Again, this is nothing that I'm basing on some kind of teaching or commentary, just my own take on that. So there might be some mistakes, and actually I can't even read the text very well. Not only do I not have any learning, but also I can't really read it even well. I'm just really making myself explain you something. I'm just trying my best without any shame or embarrassment. Anyways, I'm just without much embarrassment teaching and sharing with you whatever I find beneficial personally. So again, please clarify that with the Kempos. And so now regarding this, the conduct here, it says here, restraining one's conduct. So there is often in our conduct, there are things that we can do and things that we shouldn't do. In the path of individual liberation, that is the path of abandonment, and there are a lot of rules of things that we have to practice and things that we have to abandon and give up and so on. And then in the Bodhisattva path, it is a little more relaxed, because that is the path where we change, we transform the afflictions. And in the Vajrayana path of secret mantra, we take it all as the path. And then there is nothing much, no more difference between allowed and not allowed. There is one song, one instruction by Milarepa that actually shows that very nicely. And there Milarepa says that when their mind is virtuous, then the conduct will become virtuous just naturally. And so if in the mind there is a state of immeasurable love, then actually you cannot even practice real non-virtue any longer. So actually that's a very good thing to understand. That's a very profound point to understand actually. In other words, if you really understand the view, everything naturally will be virtuous. You will not even practice non-virtue anymore. So this is my own take on that again. So saying that there is nothing that is not allowed anymore, everything is permitted, that really means that if your mind is virtuous, then everything becomes virtuous just naturally. And then there is no need to prohibit, deliberately prohibit any non-virtuous conduct. And so then whatever you do, whether it is mundane or Dharma practice, day and night, will naturally become virtues. So this is again my own take on that in terms of restraining one's conduct.
Von einer Herzenshaltung der Liebe zu allen Lebewesen, dann wird, was immer wir tun, ein Gutes tun werden. Also dann frei von dem Klammern daran und aufpassen müssen, hier jenes zu tun und dort jenes zu lassen. Wenn es unsere Herzenseinstellung ist, lückenlos alle Lebewesen mit Liebe und Mitgefühl zu empfinden, dann wird jedes Tun und Handeln automatisch ein Gutes hervorbringen. Mir scheinen diese Worte Milarepas genau auf diesen Punkt zu passen, jedenfalls meine Einstellung dazu, wo er sagt, die 10 Qualitäten, die 10 guten Qualitäten sind spontane Nebenwirkungen des Lebens, Handelns oder Wandelns.
Ramjin Ramshok Dragiba Dang Dragiba Gangsong Ramjin Dragiba Gangzi Ramjin Ramshok Zilata Sengwanashi Shiba Mo Shijimba Zhidang Shijimba Di Ramjin Ramshok Zilata That's Dawatilang Lady Vasila Jucheba Payo Batir Ravameba there's some shows. There are two dark Jim, but down to the not talk I shot at the court of your two other tower, dark Jim, but down to dark Jim, none so. There, Kuchino Zhi Lam Drime, so indeed, that the call Juba, Namto around Sartorna, Coapang Bogoso. Some Mirado that of a song. Somebody German to talk so much in Namto around Sarton, Coapang Bogoso. Namto the cross on Sana, in Mongo Ramji, she that's a Kajuba so much, don't you want our child? In Mongo Ramji, she down at the Mongo that they jump so in so. Don't you know Zhi Lam Drime? Namto around Sarton, Coapang Bogu. So can't give and pay a go back in because somewhere. Give out the Tata Kulam Tamsi, give out in Josona, they go back in over my not all on Sartos, not all just a little cover, Bango my son. They don't want the Ramji and some go to Darji, but two other travelers did not touch a shit for a Sarapera. Nidi Shagun Saltri, Era Tadaraputo, Shemagupara, the Ramji and some to Darji, but down Lamde de lo consult me per so. Ramji Ramjo to Darji Bangang. Some shook some the Tabangan did some the shock the in Jan. None did. Ramji Ramjo the desum Kimberwood. The Baba Miller, Sengotra, Gopa Miller, some of the shocks young, some of the shock dinner. They that is big, carrying something quadramera, my boy. The Tawangan mind was a some show. Tawangan mind was a some show, Ramji, some show, the Softong Chami, the Ramji, the Shijima, Drama, don't you? When we come to the Ramji, some joke, they showed you to Darji, but down there, they call it not to shout the better Maguba. Namja just up Tade, baby, Ramji, some show, Ramji could cook, some she was sour, the name of Tangsali, Naden, the Gontam Gongo Chipan Mipa, Namja just up Tade Mipa. There 섬속 섬속들아 섬들다 이 다자마다 이래 섬시바지 그 마잉알 이 샵 샵치 섬대 추지는 좋나 이 사세 비자마다 망바도 되들 섬속들 섬디 주다 대화치 못 섬도 하장 기본적으로 다 뉴체베바 내려 요건 매바들 섬속들 다들 적절군 하고도 와 옛날에 세마이 와서 하도 기본다 섬속 들이대라 말을 비양다성을 낭라 네베 파로라 sabtin지 자와 로나 메 파르도서 바짝 공주부터 말을 비야요 낭라 네다 섬속 죽박죽장을 요나
So then it says, in the spontaneous present nature, this state of naked simplicity. So there, may there be no deviations and mistakes concerning this key point of the path. So now when in this term here of this present nature, being in this present nature, so it is the natural state of mind that is clear and fully aware, vigilant, mindful, completely aware of what arises, and then you remain within that state, you sustain that state. That is this present nature. So you are actually abiding within the view continuously and with mindful awareness at all times. And then this state of naked simplicity, that is this of being free from elaborations. Being free from elaborations is that you are able to let go or liberate whatever thought or concept arises. Elsewhere in the Treasury of Pith Instructions, the omniscient Longchen Rabjam had said in a chapter about like 6 dharmas, that of not having to non-abandonment. And so in there he said that when concepts, when thoughts are liberated in their own natural state and settle on their own, in their own state, then there is no need to abandon samsara. So when thoughts are naturally liberated, what happens there is that you recognize that they are primordial wisdom. And so therefore this statement is very similar to how it is also said in the Kagyu lineage, for example, where it says that when you recognize the nature of afflictive emotions, then all suffering is an ocean of nectar. And then coming back to Longchen Rabjam's text in the Treasury of Pith Instructions, he also said that when everything you do becomes virtues, then it is not necessary to isolate yourself to a mountain hermitage or to a monastery. So this is the state of naked simplicity, of being free from elaboration. You're able to let go of thoughts. They settle into their natural state. All dualistic grasping has collapsed. There is no coarse thoughts of attachment and aversion. So no need to mention coarse thoughts. Even the most subtle thoughts of duality have dissolved. That is the state of being free from elaboration. And so coming back to this term, the present nature, or abiding within this present nature, it is to abide within the view. And there's many ways to understand that. This term in Tibetan, it is here Hlunshuk, Homshuk. And so basically when you remain within the view without distraction, then you are naturally abiding within the present nature, within clarity and clear and empty nature, without wavering from it, without ever parting from clear awareness of it. And so here there is then no more separation between the meditation state and the post-meditation state. The mind always and naturally remains clear, and nothing can obscure the mind. So you just remain within this vivid and clear natural state all the time, and there is no more difference between meditation or non-meditation. There's many ways of explaining this term Hlumshuk, but it can also mean it has something to do with entering, like entering the womb, for example. So it could also perhaps mean that the mind enters into the womb of the Dharma, Dhatu. So you're continuously abiding within a greatly blissful, joyful state that is free from all conceptual elaborations. There is no straying ever from this state. It is an ongoing state of non-distraction that is very peaceful and very blissful. Also, Milarepa explained it similarly when he explained the 6 parameters in terms of meditation now from the perspective of meditation. And regarding the parameter of meditation, he said that aside from abiding within the natural state, there is no other perfection of meditation, a parameter of meditation than that. And then also Jigme Lingpa had said there's a few Vajra verses by Jigme Lingpa that also correspond to that and that are very profound. And that is, he said that there's no other view than separating from mental sinking and mental restlessness. So being without mental thinking or losing mental clarity and being without restlessness is the view, in other words. And he said, then he continued on, there is no other meditation than this present nature here, or entering this present nature. and then there is no other conduct than being without restraint in one's conduct, as in being effortless. When the mind is, in terms of mental thinking now and restlessness, when the mind is clear, it is not thinking, so it is not unclear. And when the mind is without the fault of restlessness or agitation, that means you're not following thoughts. So you are both. You're clear, and you're also not following thoughts. And that's actually similar in meaning to what Milarepa had said before, abiding within an ongoing state, a natural state.
다 고도로 대비를 라진 럼조들 세마인 바데리 주자르지나 대가리 나도 가리 샤르 식 다 주자리 사실 나도 가서 라지 식들때 우 뒤가는 대결지 나도 참아 장이니가 식도를 되는 나도 장이가 저도를
And so all of that has a similar meaning now. Chikmin Lingpa's verse, and then this entering into this present nature here, and Milarepa's verse. So it is just like when a child is sitting on its mother's lap, it feels very happy. It is very blissful and single-pointed. So that is how we can also understand it. And also in the Mahamudra teachings in the Kagyu tradition, really this is how we explain the view. The view is without mental thinking, or without a lack of clarity, and without agitation. And so now this term, in brief, of entering this present nature is basically you sustain a state of non-distraction. The state of naked simplicity is a state that is free from elaboration. And that means that you are able to liberate whatever thought arises. Also, this is how it is explained in the Mahamudra teachings.
다음 체지서 먹고서 집은 나와 대코는 저거래. 뭔가 람도 제거 양야는 양용도 지섭 조람도 세도 조람 딱 가리는더니 사나 갖다 말아요. 사나 도나 사나 도닝응에서 도나 소지 참라 동 도나 맞기나 말 다디로도 조람 타기 너무 큰 로고래 그래. 큰 로들이 지만 몇돌 먹고 왔다. 지만 또 왔다. 이만 몇돌 먹고 왔더니 역주들이 제시대 내가 뭐요. 제 마대가 버는 몇돌 제거래. 제 타는 다다 람지랑 도달지 당 가지고 세워서거든요. 요랑 탐지했더니 나도 가리네. 빼는 세디 쫓아오러 차대열이 저런 오늘 저 말았나니 나도 연결이 이번 용나야더니 나는 초당 랍지 밀착고 오서 독직송한테 나도 오라는 지미도 trouvé garder du secteur nato trop trouva nato madra tu bada madra nato te salmo to ti to salmo tang ti uni si la ma oti meti ko nga tao she dang ni ti ti ku ma chak de la to ku khar dang de nani de ti to ro salmo to tao na ya ko she dang to she dang de chok mi 바로 ya ko she dang la to chang de 영적영적 지야 요말 배세도 될 주바타와 주바타 마다와디 남도 지진이 있어서도 드리는 설로 빠차죠. 주전데 책 사주고리 람지 럼쇼 뭐뭐 봐요 봐서는 봐요. 가서요 놀라요 놀라요 봐요. 정은 나서 서로 사마타더라고 저기 뭐 맞춰 무슨 소마타도 딱 주바다 잘해서 나서 라고 최초의 독신이 시작해요. 최초의 라상 메르토고 재미가 들었다. 그래서 팔도 가시 떨면서 시작하고 팔 남사케 받을 패더도 서로 지지리지 세서고 참을 그냥 주바다 자서 다른 남도 또 주바다 자서고 또 딱지 동산 매가 차서 이제 주단지 책도 양대 람진 람쇼도 원들이 다 주단지 당 대우는 람진 내로 건축에 발쇼서.
And so if you abide within that state, then you will liberate all thoughts without discriminating on whether they are positive or negative thoughts and so on. Also, for example, a disciple have asked me a question, and they said that when I meditate, my mind is very clear. And at that time, I am actually able to let go of whatever thought arises in my mind. But then when I get up from meditation again, it's all gone. And then the difficulties arise again. And I can't let go of my negative emotions. And so this is what happens when we do not enter into this present nature. So we had some presence during meditation, but then we just forget about it, and we bring back our ordinary habitual patterns of holding all appearances as real and so on, and we go about our activities on the basis of that perception. So actually it is that we have to merge our experience gained in meditation with the post-meditation state. As you mentioned yesterday, Milarepa said that whatever you do, whether you're eating or drinking or sitting or going around, whatever you do, abide within the uncontrived natural state, sustain awareness. And so in the beginning, we need to practice this with an effort. And once we have habituated to it, it will become effortless. So then we actually enter this presence, this natural presence. Then mindfulness will always be there. But until then, we need to make an effort in practice. So then we practice until the mind remains always clear. And then whatever thought arises, no matter what you do, the mind is then just like hot water that instantly melts whatever arises, whatever ice block arises. For example, or like it is like a wave on water. Thoughts arise, and wind may come and freeze the wave, but the mind already is warm, so it cannot freeze into an ice block. So in the Dzogchen terms, it is explained like this here. You, in the spontaneous present nature, the state of naked simplicity. This state of naked simplicity, free from elaboration, is your ability to liberate thoughts. If there is elaboration, then you are thinking. One thought leads to another, and you keep thinking about something, and you think this is how it is, it's really like that, or he's doing this or that, and actually I'm angry at him because he said this and that to me yesterday or last year, and now I'm still thinking about it, and you keep thinking about it, it will only your fixation only gets worse. So if you have the view, if you rest in the view, even though you get angry, you look at the anger directly and it dissolves. You pay no attention to the other person who triggered it, but you look at the anger. And then eventually anger does not arise anymore. It has to completely disappear, leaving no traces behind. So elaboration is when one thought leads to another and we form habitual imprints through thinking. As we think, we form habitual karmic imprints. So these terms here...
Magivara, Zota Chogma, Niva Natoris, Niva Natazani, Natos of Mahonchen, Penata Yami, Yam Grammar, Yam Zambor, Yunguri, Zikatera Garatini, Garam Dujibachit, Garam Yang Yunguri, Yang Mivayang Yunguri, not Tosam Mari, Yam Zangi Mabu Yunguri. Nyayapulatil Lama Shar, the Latam Shars, the Mushishar, Tikal Sierra Gala, Sister Gabo Pakistan, the Manarba, Galam Dude Chini Oat, Yamzamor Chana, Galam Dude, Galam, oh, be Yapores, Gatan Dude. I don't see them with Magat, Zangin, not also some Yamzamor Machas. Nyam Barata Malari Parade concert in Karikari to Yami Malari Namtal of the Koyama boy. Nibarata in the chocolate that's how was no really. Munjil lay the little touching at the Munjil lay on the touching the number you can be carried somewhere at the that's not also so much you want the marshal at the day or the Baransa saying they go. Not all sorts of Longchen.
So this term entering into present nature has to do with mindfulness, and that with mindfulness then leads to this freedom from elaboration, that you with mindfulness instantly recognize whatever thought and emotion arises and you're able to let it go, so it becomes liberated. Also in the Dzogchen teachings, there is the teachings on Chekchu, or the direct cutting, and in the Chekchu, this is what happens. We are cutting through elaborations, conceptual elaborations as they arise. And then if you still are unable to do that, another method in the Dzogchen practice is to shout out a pet that actually shatters all kinds of thoughts within your mind. So you shout out this pet into space. And after that, actually, when you look at your mind, it is actually very clear, so free from elaboration. So these two terms are actually very, very important. And so then it says next, may there be no deviations and mistakes concerning this key point of the path. So do not deviate or make a mistake when it comes to labeling or clinging at thoughts as being positive or negative. No matter what arises, do not label it as this or that, or good or bad, or positive or negative. Have no fixation to positive or virtue. Have no aversion against something negative. Everything is just a thought. Positive and negative, virtue and non-virtue, ultimately are just thoughts. Often people also have all kinds of dreams and visions. Sometimes positive, good visions or experiences arise. And then when we like that, when we are happy about that, then that turns into attachment, and then that turns into a mara, like an obstructor in your practice. And then also it happens that negative experiences arise in our practice, but that also is just a thought. So all kinds of positive and negative experiences can arise. For example, you might see the guru or the deity directly, or you might have some clairvoyant powers. But then if you are pleased about that, then actually once Milarepa told Gambopa that when you are attached to your positive experiences, then that attachment turns into an obstacle or like a mara. So do not be attached, whether it is positive or negative. For example, think about all the hardships that Milarepa had to endure and all the obstacles that those demons and evil spirits caused him. So when you read his life story, you will understand very clearly. There are so many things to learn from that. So whatever arises, good or bad, sickness, pain, all of that is due to past karma and temporary conditions. So due to that, all kinds of things can happen. And when difficult things arise, when there's pain and difficulty, all of that is just also a thought arising in your mind. So do not stray into clinging or holding on to that thought, labeling it as this or that, or positive or negative, but instead sustain clear, mindful awareness, clear awareness without straying into that mistake of fixation. And so all kinds of experiences can arise in one's practice, positive or negative. There's one short story about that. When I was in prison, I had a companion there who was also a Lama, a Mahamudra practitioner, and he was actually a very accomplished Mahamudra practitioner, and he had developed an experience of clarity, a clairvoyant ability. So he was able to see, for example, when an animal, when a person, for example, was killing an animal and so on. So he would just see everything. And then because he had great compassion, he couldn't bear not to say something. So he warned people and he told them about his abilities just out of compassion, because he saw that someone is going to be killed and so on. So because of that, he became actually quite famous in our area in Longchen, and then eventually people would stand in line and to see him and ask him questions and predictions, because everyone was really impressed by the accuracy of his clairvoyant predictions. And then because he had shared his abilities with others, then eventually one day they have disappeared. He didn't have those abilities anymore. But then people didn't believe him, of course, and they still insisted, and they begged him, please tell us, but he just didn't have the ability anymore. And that is because he had become somewhat controlled by this experience by telling others about it. So the lesson to be learned here is that we should not actually share any of that with somebody else. Of course, he did it with compassion, but still sharing that with others, these abilities actually led to the end of his abilities. So this is one of the experiences that can arise when we practice. And this is an actual true story that really actually shows the truthful words of the Buddha. And so in our practice, all kinds of positive and negative things can happen. No matter what it is, you keep it to yourself and you close the door to it, meaning you don't think much about it. It is also said that when you follow all the prophecies of the Dakinis, then that can also turn into a Mara, an obstacle. For example, people have visions of Dakinis or so telling them, go there, and when you go there, you will benefit so many beings and many things will be accomplished. But then people share that and they follow that, and then they lose all their practice because of that. So whatever arises, you keep it hidden, keep it to yourself secretly, and even close the door within your own mind to it without thinking about it. So this is how we should practice on the path, because if we don't close the door to much thinking, then we become controlled by it and we lose our practice. And so there is a difference in abilities that will arise when we attain the ultimate fruition. So these are the stable qualities of accomplishment when we attain the ultimate fruition. But any abilities that arise along the path, we should actually not hold on to them at all, not share them, not think about them. And that's an extremely important point. And actually, maybe something we don't really have to worry too much about, because also even to attain such qualities, we need to practice really hard. So if there is a disciple who has a lot of diligence and practices really hard, it's possible that one might develop some abilities. But if we don't really practice like that, then it will not happen anyways. So whatever arises, whatever thought arises, positive or negative, don't think about it, but let it be even. So it says not falling into partiality also. So sustain mindfulness at all times. Recognize these thoughts and let them go. So that's also significant, because when we often practice shamatha or calm abiding, it seems that meditation is very comfortable and it's going very well, and we think that we're meditating, but then we don't really recognize all the thoughts that actually arise all the time, and so we don't liberate them. And so then later on, if we don't liberate them, then if you just let them be, then later on, when a very powerful thought or emotion arises, then there's nothing that we can do about it, and we will become controlled by it. So it's important that when a thought arises, that instantly you're very clear, vigilant, and you recognize the thought and you let it go.
Ta chasung, ta trosung, ta trolmasung, nyasung, ta bo le, ta bo karo te yore, nakto nimari, nakto teri, trolmato yore te, nima jayin rinjam te teri, ramjin ke teri, beto magowa na jayin, pa lupo de yana teri, nakto rang charangto jinche beba te chataba, jayin rinjam nong, chador rimi, jayin rinjam nong.
So we don't fall into partiality towards positive thoughts or negative ones, and without giving free rein to a state of indifferent neutrality, manifestation and liberation, and expands unrestricted, unbridled, and spontaneously free. So this term here, spontaneously free, is that in the beginning we recognize now a thought has arisen. Now I was able to liberate it. Now it was not liberated, and so on. So we recognize each and every day, sometimes we liberate thoughts, sometimes we do not. But later, here at this point now, they are spontaneously freed, effortlessly. The mind just always abides within a very relaxed state, and within that state, whatever thought arises naturally and self-liberates upon arising. So that is this state of being spontaneously free.
frei werden kann. Es ist wie eine ungebrochene Kontinuität von allem, was spontan aufscheint und schon wieder in sich frei wird, ohne ein solches Abgegrenztsein, wie ein weites Losgelassensein in großer, entspannter Weise.
남도 살 유모모 왕도 설 변한 세상 见 초바 잡타지 아 하고 사상부여래 뒤지 야야 당하다 다 소소 다사서 다 샤과치고서 드디어 샤과치를 다 해요 바드 남도 살 르가가 레마사가 변면서 고소로는 각 책마 통으로 랍삼 지시했고요 오시다가 책지 참조가서 그요 이만 냐들은 샤도를 되는 나도 사바는 냐들은 오 당한 나도 용거도 샤가 시다 용거도 냠데 샤도 이거 다 깝들이 다 약속이 샤도를 되게 시랍데 짜트가 이거 torto 거래 맞아 로마질 냠이제 돼 고니 똑똑 보니까 냠데 냠이제 저거지 나 코로나가 주말라와 시시시 나 코로나가 주말라와 시시시 미모가 제대로 하고는 미모보다 잘하는데 대답을 남이지는 그래서 사실 저거 컨트롤 거죠. 이 컨트롤 내양들이 컨트롤랑들 다시 한거 사도 돼 대도제를 남이지요. 대도제들이 오당 못 사고를 컨트롤랑들 락장들이 시당 못 사고라. 이 밤에 벽을 다 저도 컨트롤만 다 컨트롤 이제 노바지 맞을 것이로 컨트롤 자창 컨트롤 네 대도제 공고 사도 대도제 로마사주 속이 남이지 그 니만 고소 의미로 자서 거기 조베 파라데스 마데 로마카시 되나 다 김이 말아베 차워지 딱볼 강에 제 있으노 그래서 조바가 다 김이 가든 쳐버리다 라면만 보여 되다가 네 초가 조바 공수는 김이 그 딱볼 말아 차워서 강에 지나 강에서 어째나 다 곰조 조바 곰데데 다 막지는 거래고 요 딱들이 가세 강에 지나 오다 김만 조바 다 김이 핀사 상스 다 조바 공사 당은에 매가 차서 대로 문이 양이제 대로 오지네 도다 도지 팔아 센치네들이 이거 조바 차거라 저는 참 조바 공사에 나도 졸록대 졸록 그 말씀이요.
So in the beginning, we first become controlled by our thoughts and afflictive emotions. For example, you get angry and then you fight, you argue with someone, and after you're done fighting, finally you realize, oh no, what have I done? And I should apologize, I should confess. So then you purify it through confession and laying it aside. And it does become purified. And then in the middle, as you continue to practice, then that thought arises again, but you recognize it before you are acting out on it with body and speech. So you are getting angry, but you are holding yourself back. You're not actually saying something bad to the other person, because as it arises, you also are mindful. So you're able to hold yourself back and not act out on it. And then in the end, once you have practiced more, then arising and liberation happen simultaneously. So the thought arises, and together with that, there is awareness. So it arises within awareness. So anger arises, and within awareness is that you notice, oh, anger arises. So it arises together with awareness, within awareness. And that is actually the best. So then through the power of awareness, you're able to liberate that thought naturally. there was actually once two practitioners who are disciples of mine, and so they were a couple and they were practicing the Dharma together, and so they would like practice like that. For example, yeah, they would say like, I'm starting to get angry, so please be quiet and don't say anything before I'm getting really angry. And so they controlled each other like that when an afflictive emotion arose. And sometimes actually they even like intentionally would make the affliction arise. So they would trigger the affliction in the other to test each other and to train with one another. And then in the end, they would feel that if it is triggered and I really do get angry, how embarrassing what is that, since we are trying to practice together. So this is also how couples are practicing together. And these disciples actually turned out to be great practitioners, and in the end they really had no more anger and had perfect patience, and they perfected the practice of patience. Or, for example, there was another disciple who had a really a terrible wife who always was causing trouble all the time. And I just kept telling him, practice patience, practice patience. And then finally, he was really able to let go of all these resentment against her. And he, in the end, even said that she is really my greatest benefactor. Because of her, I have perfected patience. She is extremely kind to me. So actually, she helped my practice very much. So later, no matter what she did, nothing would create a problem anymore. He would be perfectly patient. So this is what happens, and how also couples can practice with each other together. This is how we can become each other's virtuous friend. So anyways, this is a good point to stop the teachings today, actually. It is a point of we have to practice patience with each other, and we have to liberate our thoughts that arise. So there are basically three ways of liberating thoughts according to the three levels of the path. But in any case, we need to be able to liberate our thoughts.
Page number 3. Red book, page number 18. Long life prayer, this extra paper. Aber Deutsch. Gutik. Lots aber. Ja. Peter. Okay. Bedeutung.
Crowned the shapeless, kind unknown friend Dzogchen in 17. Great bandits Tilopa and Naropa, Marpa, Milarepa, Kampopa, Chitan Sumgan, and their lineage heirs. Please bestow good fortune and auspiciousness. Transcending, Lord, protect our tires, who grants supreme life, everlasting, stable, and unchanging, and who diverts from untimely death. One who merely hears your name or thinks of you, please bestow good fortune and auspiciousness. With discipline, living in the higher training of morality, with great compassion that appears as the glory of those who attain, and without ever parting, devoid of all grasping, from Mahamudra's natural state, Nidam Benvenima, son of the teachings, may your life remain firm.
Dankeschön.
Also wir werden jetzt jeden Abend Zhi praktizieren. So now after the short break we will practice Zhi.